Well, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. Bitcoin. Gonna start with the weekly chart of Bitcoin. Again, last week we closed with a very bullish Marubasu candle. It doesn't necessarily mean the next week's just gonna keep pumping up. It's actually not abnormal to have a little bit of a pullback after something like this, because if you look at Marubasu candles, you can actually have a little tiny bit of a wick after that. You can also have a little bit of a reversal candle that would not necessarily be sustainable. So because you have a bullish Marubasu candle doesn't necessarily mean that you're just going to go up to the moon from here. But this could just be a wick. This over here could just be a wick, and I can show you why I think that might be the case. Again, this is just speculation, right? But remember what the saying is, be bullish at support. It just bounced right off of the bull market support band, and it's just still within a very much of a squeezed Bollinger Band over here, and it's above the bull market support band right now. It simply just pierced through it and back tested support. So far, looks like today on a Tuesday the support seems to be holding. We will see whether or not it holds. If it goes down further, then we might have to talk. But currently the trend favors that this is a back test after a very nice Marubasu candle that closed on Sunday. This is just a simple midweek back testing. This might potentially turn out to be more or less just a wick. There's no guarantee of that. But even before, like whenever you have something similar, this is like probably the cleanest Marubasu candle that I've seen for Bitcoin when I was digging through history. But you have some other Marubasu-like candles, like that one over there. You do have a little bit of a sideways consolidation there. So they don't always have to be just immediate, right? But in general, they are suggesting that there's going to be some pretty decent bullish continuation. The weekly trend wave oscillator is pointing up. Maybe a little tiny bit of retail coming in, but for the most part, you have still a lot of whales. The whales currently is around like 73-74% on the weekly. Still looking like a pretty decent trend, and the Bollinger Band is still squeezing with the price on the upper part of the Bollinger Band, which tells me whenever the big move is to come, it can still take maybe a few weeks of sideways potentially, but whenever that move is to come, most likely it's going to shoot to the upside, based on probability speaking. And so says the wave trend oscillator. We'll have to closely monitor these things, but so far it's looking pretty decent. I do think that there is a very nice trend line with this wave trend oscillator that has been respecting. And if anything, this trend line actually is not just a trend line, but this trend line is actually a channel, because it looks like a very nice channel on its way up. So we'll see what happens, but I like the weekly chart so far in terms of what it's showing me. Now, looking at other time frames, let's look at the daily time frame, trying to see what the heck it's trying to do, right? You look at daily time frame, really over the last couple weeks or so, you have increased whale trend as shown by really all the way price went from like the 53,000 all the way up to 68,000 or so this past Sunday. And you are starting to have a little bit of a bearish cross here, although these things can potentially reverse pretty quickly whenever it wants to. And right now, price just kind of back testing below a support band. It's also really back testing this big cup over here, maybe a little tiny handle over there. But there's a big cup over here with a little tiny handle, and it broke through, and it's just back testing that area. So far, there's still really not much to worry about. This level seemed to be relatively important, with price being spent here, here, and here. And here as well. So we're basically just kind of back testing a potentially important horizontal level, although the wave trend is a little bit downward. So it does make me wonder whether or not we're going to end up having another candle going to the downside, or maybe this is a downtrend. I doubt it, but this is a little bit concerning here on the lower time frame, although I'm not really that concerned on the lower time frame, because on the higher time frame on the weekly here, it looks great. Like the trend is pointing up. Everything here on the weekly looks great. On top of that, on the weekly, it reclaimed the Tenkan and the Kijun on the Ichimoku cloud. On top, on the weekly, it also reclaimed the Super Ichi Tenkan and Kijun. The super trend is still positive, so there's still a lot of positive momentum happening. On the 2-week chart, if I can pull it up, you can see that the wave trend oscillator is starting to maybe turn a little bit more positive. There's really no retail here, maybe just a little sign of weakness over here, but whales are still in for the most part, and there's not really any retail, you know. And with the Ichimoku, it reclaimed the Tenkan up here. You know, with the Subiichi also reclaimed the Tenkan, you know, and the super trend again is still positive after a bullish cross that just happened October 2023. On the 2-week chart, it still looks great. On the monthly chart, the Ichimoku cloud still looks very, very good. It looks like it's just pointing up, and it just looks like it's wanting to try to, you know, provide very, very strong support here in the 53,000 range. And it bounced for a very, very nice hammer demand, lots of demand candle over here. The trend wave oscillator is still pointing down, but these things can change in a hurry. You know, like once it starts to stabilize, sometimes it can still be pointing down over here, but it doesn't really take a whole lot for the blue line to kind of cross back above. On the MCDX Plus, there's really no retail. The majority of them is still whales, and whales are still around 85%. So this is what's happening with the Bitcoin chart here. MicroStrategy looks very similar to Bitcoin, except that it's actually more bullish than Bitcoin. If you look at a weekly chart here, I'm going to show the Bollinger Band again, it's squeezing just like Bitcoin is doing. If you show the bull market support band, is way above that, whereas Bitcoin is currently come back down and kind of testing it right now. MicroStrategy is just kind of out there, you know, hanging out on the closer to the top part of the upper Bollinger Band over here. Now, is MicroStrategy potentially going to come down and get a little bit closer to the Bollinger support band before bouncing up? Possible, but it doesn't seem like it has to. I'm going to show you another chart to kind of tell you why. But the whales are in. There's not really any retail left over here. You also have the weekly trend, wave trend oscillator turning positive. So all these are very positive developments. And if you're also looking at the monthly chart, again, you have a little bit of a bearish cross, but things are potentially going to end up turning around here a little bit. You don't really have much retail here. You have a lot of whales that are still in. Right now it's close to about 90%. And if you pull out some of the standard things I look at, monthly bounce from the conversion line here from the Tenkan line over here, looks like it might be ready to go up, because in general it tends to like to consolidate around the Tenkan until Tenkan is able to catch up, and right now Tenkan's pointing up here a little bit. So that tells me I think most likely you're going to have some pretty bullish continuation here for the next months to come, is kind of what I'm looking at here. Now, in terms of where I think the targets could be, I can go back to the weekly chart. I can pull up my version of the GAN, but if you really want to look at like a more reliable version of the GAN, you can look at the Great Mat Speeds. You know, what I'm going to see basically is trying to break above this range over here. If it's able to break above the arc and break above the golden ratio here around 1.618, I think it's probably going to enter gravity up towards the 4 or 5,000. And beyond that, I think like the Great Mat Speed has some crazy target, which sounds crazy, but he's basically saying maybe potentially 20,000, which is like all the way on top of my GAN here. But I don't know. I mean, I would just say like take one step at a time, stay at resistance. I think it's probably gonna end up breaking out. It's probably gonna end up having some resistance zone over here, anywhere around like 1800 to 2200, anywhere around here, maybe even upwards to like 2300. So we need to break about all this resistance, but if they're able to be broken, I think 4 or 5,000, or even 6,600 somewhere up here is going to be kind of where I see it, and that could potentially be where the cycle may be topping. I don't know for sure. All right. Looking at the MSTR over Bitcoin chart, this is a relatively bullish looking chart. It just looks like MicroStrategy over Bitcoin has been just outperforming, mostly forming higher highs and higher lows ever since June 2022, or even May of 2022. And it does look like it wants to keep going. Whenever a more leveraged play like MicroStrategy over Bitcoin, whenever a leveraged play like this is outperforming the underlying asset, it just seems that the underlying asset is probably going to end up keep going, you know. And it's just looks like it's been having a big giant like rounded bottom over here, and it's forming a little bit of a smaller cupboard handle, if you will. It looks like it wants to break out, but it's at some pretty key resistance over here at this ratio. So we'll see. But it looks like it wants to break. It looks like MicroStrategy wants to continue to outperform Bitcoin. Now, looking at Coinbase, Coinbase also looks like a very, very nice chart. It's not quite back to its previous all-time high, which is when it started IPOing, right around 429.54. is still right around this resistance zone because we spent a long time over here around 2021. So it's still trying to break above, but it looks like it wants to. You know, it's been doing nothing but forming like inverted head and shoulder, forming a cup with a handle, forming another cup with another handle over here, and it looks like it wants to break out. Looking at the whalish momentum also looks very nice. Looking at the trend wave trend oscillator also turned positive, right? So a lot of good things going for it. If you look at the Ichimoku cloud, it's reclaimed the Tenkan and the Kijun, and it's just looks like it's not too far overextended. It just looks like it wants to run up, you know, relatively soon after being consolidating for a few months. And when it was here, when we got to this resistance range, I really thought back in like March or so, I really did warn that I think probably it's going to end up going anywhere sideways for anywhere from like 1 to 3 months. You know, it ended up going to almost like 4 months now. So I think it's ready to break out. On the monthly time frame, also looks very nice. Again, you have a little bit of bearish cross. It looks like it could just be reversed at any minute. Whales continue to go in, you know, really have a very, very nice trend since the bottom over here. Whales have been just going up, retail has just been going down. And on top of that, you look at the Ichimoku, it had a bullish cross, and it's just been kind of correcting sideways. I think the next month, let's see, yeah, the next month this Tenkan is going to shoot up, because the next month is going to stop counting this candle over here, and it's going to end up shooting up. It's probably going to end up serving as some pretty good support moving forward for Coinbase. And if you're asking me more about the potential target for Coinbase this cycle, I'm going to be pulling up my poor cat version of the GAN here. I think we're at a golden ratio of 0.618, which is also another reason why it's been having a hard time breaking above. But if you break above this level, around 277.5, which we got rejected over here, right at the angle too, if it's able to do that, then you're really talking about maybe around 400 to 500, somewhere around there. And that could be a potentially another big resistance level. We may end up having to go sideways around. Maybe we get rejected and the cycle's over, or maybe we end up going up to, you know, around like 1,000, or even like you know, 1,200, somewhere around here. And I can potentially see the cycle ending up here too, although we are, you know, at resistance, so we'll just take one level at a time. But this is a bullish chart. You know, I can't really complain about this Coinbase chart here at all. And if you're also looking at the like Ichimoku cloud, again, like it just looks very, very nice on the weekly. On the 2 week, it really looks like it just pushed through the cloud, back tested it. It looks like it's ready to run. You look at the volume, basically the entire move up was on increasing volume, and the back test is on declining volume. And it looks like this whole like sideways move or downward move is non-committal bounce from support. It looks like it wants to run up higher. So that's what it looks like to me in terms of Coinbase. And if you're asking me about how Coinbase can stack against Bitcoin, I would say that it's stacking against Bitcoin very well. Looking at the coin over Bitcoin chart, looking very nice. You know, looking like it's just went through the cloud and back tested the cloud here a little bit, and just kind of went sideways, and it looks like it wants to go up higher. It looks like Coinbase want to maybe outperform Bitcoin moving forward once it's able to break above this resistance zone over here. You know. So yeah, it's looking very, very nice. If you're talking about CleanSpark, I would like the this is the weekly chart for CleanSpark. I would like the week, I really would like the week to close above the blue line, the conversion line, or the Tenkan around 17.44. So far we're like 1 cent above it. We're right at it. I really like to see that closing above the blue line, because then way you have 2 consecutive weeks closing above the conversion line, where we've just been ranging here sideways for months between these lines. So we're able to get a second week confirmation that we're closing above this. Then I think we might be getting ready to like seriously run this thing. Looking at the Ichimoku cloud on the monthly, it's just been stuck in range underneath the cloud and above the Tenkan here for quite some time. And I do think that maybe late July or like sometime in August is probably going to be the month to really break above. And if you're looking not at the Ichimoku cloud, you're looking at the Super Ichi cloud, we've already broken inside the cloud. You know, so I think a lot more bullish things are to come, and this is in the setting of having a bullish cross over here. Whereas over here, it never really had a bullish cross. You know, it just kind of get rejected, just kept going down. I think this is a very different morphology that we had over here. and I do not think that this is going to end up just plummeting. It looks like there's a lot more juice left to go up. Now, the problem that you might see is, okay, so the whales are not as strong over the last 5 months, but neither has retail. It's just been heavy trader over here in this range, which is not surprising because when price stuck in range, the traders come in. But I would almost say that we're having less and less retail, and I think that momentum are starting to kind of pick up here a little bit. So I am bullish on this chart. I cannot be bearish on this chart based on what I'm seeing. Let me get rid of that right there and pull up this I already have with the trend wave oscillator. It's positive. You had a little bit of false positive over here. The thing's just been going sideways. So you have the trend oscillator just resetting down, down, down. And I really do think that we had a breakout over here because we broke above the blue line. And you can see that this is also correlated with like a positive trending here for the wave trend oscillator too. Now, if you ask me how CleanSpark is stacking against Bitcoin, I would say initially I was more bullish on CleanSpark, but it's just been oscillating so far. And right now it's maybe like hitting a little bit of like a bearish cross over here. But so far the CleanSpark over Bitcoin chart has been making more higher highs and higher lows than anything. So I do think that once we're able to break above this range here on this CleanSpark over Bitcoin chart, it could potentially test the top of the range over here. Right now it's just kind of right at support. So there's still a good chance that CleanSpark might end up outperforming Bitcoin moving forward, although the trend is a little bit less clear, But I'm still relatively, very bullish on the CleanSpark chart overall, based on a couple of things that I see, which includes the very fact that it reclaimed my support band. It really truly reclaimed it, And then on top of that, you also have a very tight Bollinger Band squeeze, and it's just getting squeezier and squeezier. It looks like it wants to blow. And, as Trekker was saying on our live stream earlier, like maybe the proctologist is involved, it really looks like it's trying to, explode. If I had to choose one side upwards or downwards, I would choose up because it's reclaimed the bull market support band. And if it's able to reclaim the Ichimoku Tenkan, the blue line over here, is ready to reclaim that, I think the next direction is going to be up, and it could be quite impulsive when it happens. So CleanSpark, Mara's had almost like a 10% down day today. A lot of people are getting very scared. I'm not really getting scared at all. I'm actually quite bullish on Mara, the way that it looks. Looking at the weekly chart, it just looks like it went through the cloud and just doing a little back test and bounced. And right now, after this area over here, it looks like it formed a very nice cup, and it's just been fighting some resistance up here right at my arc right there, and it's just simply got a little bit rejected over here, and right now it's just been going sideways. You have a little bit of a bearish engulfing. I'm never really that bearish on bearish engulfing candles, but I can see it. The week's not over. Maybe we bounce back above the Tenkan line over here around 22.44, which is what I kind of more or less expected to do. And whales are still pretty heavy. Like this uptrend over here has been associated with increasing whalish momentum. And if you also look at the wave trend oscillator, it's still pointing up. This is still a relatively bullish trending chart here. If you're looking at the monthly chart, Mara is actually looking more bullish than CleanSpark. I would even argue that Mara is looking more bullish than MSTR and Coinbase, because Mara has something that neither of those stocks have, which is a monthly bullish cross and a significantly declining retail, and a pretty good amount of whalish momentum that's being set plays in here. So I'm actually pretty bullish on Mara. I think today was probably a buying opportunity, although again, like none of this is financial advice, blah blah blah. So I'm just telling you what to do. All of this is really more or less for entertainment, for your entertainment. But I really do see that things are starting to turn around here. I like the way it looks. It looks like an alien wave flat. It looks like once you keep going up, the whalish momentum and the wave trend oscillator is all supporting that notion. Look at the Mara over Bitcoin chart. It looks like it does want to maybe roll over here a little bit on the wave trend oscillator. So maybe Mara is not ready to outperform Bitcoin. Maybe Bitcoin end up outperforming Mara, but I don't know. I mean, I just like the Mara chart right now. just over time, Mara hasn't been as bullish as CleanSpark, MicroStrategy, or Coinbase. I don't have to tell you that, you already know. It's just been oscillating. It's not really outperforming or underperforming Bitcoin. It's just been stuck in a sideways channel here for really like last like 3 years now. So we'll see whether or not it ends up going back to above the top of the channel, which means that Mara could potentially outperform Bitcoin for months to come, right? Assuming that this is just going to be a higher low, and assuming that this down candle over here is just going to be a back test of this whole level over here, which we've broken out, and it's just basically doing a little bit of a double back test number one, back test number two, and maybe Mara would continue to outperform Bitcoin too. Who knows? You know, looking at Bitfarms is one of those that continue to look bullish. You know, again, wave trend oscillator is supportive. The whale momentum indicator is also supportive. You know, you don't have much retail over here. Trend seems to be declining retail, and maybe like whales were initially increasing, now it's just kind of going sideways. But overall, there are a lot of positive things that I'm seeing here. With the weekly Ichimoku cloud, looks like it wants to do a bullish cross over here. And it looks like we're just kind of more or less right at support at the baseline, or the Tenkan Kijun. With the Tenkan is going to be the conversion. It looks like we're kind of at the cups of support over here. Could it potentially go back down to like the 2.4s to use as support going up? Yes. Does it have to? No. You know, it looks like a pretty decent spot where it's at right now. Looking at the monthly chart, it also has broken above the Tenkan and Kijun, right? This looks a little bit more bullish than Mara, but even Mara has broken above the Tenkan, the blue line over here. So these are relatively pretty bullish things. I think that if it's able to break above the zone over here around like $3.5, it can probably gravitate up to like $4.5 in a hurry. I still think that to be the case. And on the monthly chart, again, Bitfarm looks more bullish than MicroStrategy, Coinbase, and CleanSpark as well. Bitfarm actually also had a monthly bullish cross, so it might be a little bit more ready to run. The Welsh momentum indicator has been looking great on the monthly chart for Bitfarms. So Bitfarm actually is looking more bullish compared to a lot of the other ones. I can talk about targets, but like I think it might be a little bit too early to talk about that. All I can say is that I think the trend is becoming more bullish. I just want to do some quick rundown to let you know what the trend is. Maybe I will talk about targets at a later date. Bitfarms over Bitcoin looks like we might be trending down here a little bit. Who knows? Maybe this is just going to be like a double cross, bearish and bullish crossing, pushing up. Looks a little bit more like a bull flag over here. So who knows? Maybe it will continue to trend up from here. But it does look like, Bitfarms maybe hitting the top of this resistance zone over here over Bitcoin, and it might continue to outperform Bitcoin over time. We'll see, but that's looking pretty decent. I do want to show a couple other things too on Mara and Bitfarms that I didn't really show earlier, just like the chart for CleanSpark. There are a couple of things here that I really like a lot, which is the Bollinger Band has just been squeezing after we reclaim the boomerang support band, right? Now, if you look at Bitfarm, same things happen. Bollinger Band squeezing right after it reclaimed the boomerang support band. Matter of fact, it like bounced with boomerang support band almost perfectly. It looks like it wants to run, so I think that it might end up running, to be honest. I like the way that Bitfarms and Mara is looking. I like all of these charts, like in different ways. Looking at CIFR looks amazing. It broke above this 5.5 zone over here, and it's not surprising to me if it ends up hitting like 5.5 again to kind of do a back test. But the very fact is that it was overextended over here with this big giant move, and right now on the Bollinger Band on the weekly we're still overextended. But this is a bull trend, and the Bollinger Band is expanding, so you might have a little bit more short-term pain, but I think it's going to be a lot of long-term gain. It hit the $8 target that I had almost perfectly, and if you're able to break above the $7.8 to $8 range of resistance, you're talking about hitting $10. That's going to be the next target, and it looks like it wants to expand to do that. The wave trend oscillator on the weekly is looking great. The well indicator is looking great. Like there are a lot of things that are very lovely about this chart. The monthly also looking great. We're a little bit overextended to above the upper Bollinger Band, which is why we came back a little bit closer to it. But you have the 20-month moving average pointing up. The wave trend oscillator is up. The whalish momentum is up. there's nothing there's really nothing to not like about this chart, to be completely honest with you. Looking at the Ichimoku cloud, bounce through the cloud, bounce from the cloud, looks like it's pretty impulsive. Price action wants to keep up going up higher over time, but it just simply hasn't had that Bollinger Band expansion to allow it to do that. Looking at the CIFR over Bitcoin chart, what's interesting is that you can see how the CIFR over Bitcoin chart is played out. It tried to push in to the cloud, even through the cloud. It's just a little bit too far, too fast. Right now, we're kind of stuck underneath the weekly Ichimoku cloud here, but the overall trend is up. It really does look like CIFR is forming CIFR over Bitcoin chart is forming a nice cup over here. It really looks like CIFR wants to outperform Bitcoin moving forward, but we'll see. I'm pretty bullish. I'm going to skip the price target for CIFR here during this talk. Just move along to IREN. A lot of people are worried about IREN. IREN is really not too worrisome to me. I do think that right now is kind of on, it's Tuesday, is a little bit underneath a key support zone right here. Could it go down further, test some of the support zone underneath, maybe like $10, 9.7, somewhere around there? I can totally see it potentially doing that. And the wave trend oscillator is pointing down, the Wells momentum is declining, but you also have a deceleration of the downtrend, and I think a lot of higher volume candles have already played out right into support. You have a little bit of a tweezer bottom over here. Could it go down further? Yes, it can. But I think that we're still at an important support zone. So let's see how this week ends up closing. But the IREN chart and it has been a little bit overextended. So it's not entirely a bad thing for it to cool down sideways for another month or two, potentially, right? And we kind of lost the Tenkan, the conversion line over here, but it's still not looking terrible. Again, I think I can totally see it come down to like 9.7, 9.8, $10 somewhere around here, which would be another good support zone. The bull support band, it was just a little bit way too far, and it just had to wait for the band to catch up. And by the time when it comes back down, who knows, maybe it'll hit like 10, 9.8, 9.6 somewhere around there and meet the bull support band halfway, and it just keeps going up afterwards. That's kind of where I'm seeing IREN. I can't really be bearish on the higher time frame for IREN, because IREN it still looks like absolutely gorgeous. I think this is a very, very similar chart to like the CIFR chart, and except that it's been a lot more impulsive. You have a little bit of a tweezer top look to it, so maybe a little bit more correction down before going up higher. That would not be the end of the world. It's just been a little bit too far overextended above the upper Bollinger Band, and it's not even inside, so we're going to end up potentially closing above the upper Bollinger Band, right? Could it go down to maybe like $10, getting to like 9.7, 9.8, and close the month underneath of that? Would that be the end of the world? No. Look at how well the Bollinger Band is extending up. Over time, it's going to end up allowing price for IREN to be going up higher. And overall, on the higher time frame, the wells are still increasing. So this is a pretty decent looking chart. Now, if you're looking at the IREN over the Bitcoin chart, I can say this is that overall it looks very nice. You do have a little bit of a short-term weekly time downtrend here on this IREN over Bitcoin chart. So in the short term, I can totally see Bitcoin outperforming IREN, but overall I cannot really be too entirely bearish based on the way that the IREN over Bitcoin chart is looking. Maybe it's just waiting for the moving average to kind of push up a little higher, and maybe the downtrend over here is kind of exhausting. But overall, I think that maybe Bitcoin with short term over the next month or two maybe end up outperforming IREN, but IREN still looks pretty good on the higher time frame. And you're just gonna have to digest this big giant move up there. It happens. Terra Wolf is actually one of the stocks that I'm unsure about. I have been hesitant to really buy more Terra Wolf. I have a position. My calls average is around $2. I've been a little bit more hesitant to buy into it because it's just been a little bit overextended. It looks like it wants to do a little bit of a rounded top, and I'm not sure whether or not the correction is necessarily over yet. Just looking at the monthly chart, you can see how overextended it is above the upper Bollinger Band on the monthly. I mean, granted, it just has to stay where it is, and next month maybe the upper Bollinger Band will catch up, and it would just end up going sideways for about another month or two before going up. But whales are also very heavily in on the monthly chart. It just looks absolutely gorgeous, in terms of the wave trend oscillator. It looks like it wants to go higher, but it may just be a little bit too far overextended. It might need to cool down here a little bit. On the weekly, it's already cooled down. You have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 candles closing outside the upper Bollinger Band, and looks like this week's going to close inside. I don't know whether or not it's going to keep going down because you do have a little bit of a rolling over look to it, but wells are still in, so I don't know. Like, I think this is a hold for me. I wouldn't buy up here because the risk has been elevated compared to when it was like around the twos, but I still cannot be that bearish on it because of the wells are still in, and because the Bollinger Band wants to just keep going up here on the upper Bollinger Band. I just don't know how far it's going to come back down and correct, or is it just going to simply correct through time. I'm a little bit wary, so I probably won't buy WULF, but I'm still bullish on it, so it's a hold. Looking at the monthly chart again, and I can show you, like, just look at Ichimoku Cloud. It's just so very bullish, had a bullish cross, and both the Tenkan and Kijun just pointing straight up, Like, this is a bullish chart. The question is whether or not it's overextended, how long it's going to correct sideways. I don't know. The WULF over Bitcoin chart looks like an Adam and Eve double bottom. So whenever it breaks above this ratio over here, I think it like WULF can outperform Bitcoin by a whole lot. And the question is, how long is it going to end up going sideways here and trying to break above resistance, right? Just like how WULF has been kind of overextended over here, how long does it have to go sideways before it's able to catch up to some of the indicators and go up higher? I don't have the answer to that. But I like the way that WULF looks on a longer time frame. I just wouldn't buy into it because I just think short term is overextended. That's all. I have a lot of people ask me about BTBT. On the monthly chart, looks very bullish. You had a 3 white soldier kind of looking thing to it, and you have the monthly, wave trend also pointing up, wellish momentum going up, retail momentum going down. And if you also look at the Ichimoku, it reclaimed the Tenkan and Kijun. So this actually looks like a very bullish chart, just like what Mara is doing, and also just like what Bitfarms is doing, So BTBT is actually looking pretty decent. It just has to break about this big resistance zone up here around like $4, which might still take time because you see how important this level has been, So we'll see whether or not we're able to break above. It looks like the trend wave oscillator and the Welsh momentum saying yes. If it breaks above, where's it going to go? $11, $10, somewhere up here, probably. At the cloud over here. If it ends up breaking up above, it can do some pretty big damage in a hurry. Before it gets there, though, do I see any resistance? I do, around like the $6 to $7 range over here. So maybe it gets some rejection over here, but eventually hits the 10, and this could happen maybe early next year. I don't know. But I think that this is a pretty bullish looking chart here on the monthly. On the weekly though, I do wonder whether or not short term we're a little bit overextended. We did break through back above the cloud, and we're just kind of hovering around the cloud. The wave trend oscillator looks a little bit more exhaustive to me. But the Welsh momentum is up, so who's there to say? I do think that maybe this chart is potentially a little bit overextended again based on Bollinger Band. Look at like 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks above the upper Bollinger Band. So I wonder whether or not it's going to end up having to cool down a little bit, try to find some support, maybe find some support around like, $3 somewhere down here before going up further. I just don't see like this bullish continuation, just keep going, bam, 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 just keep going up. I think it probably has to cool down here a little bit. But yeah, I'm not bearish on Bit Digital. I'm not bearish on BTBT on the long term. On the short term, I'm a little bit cautious. I do like the stock. I don't want to buy where it is right here, but if it goes down back to like the mid threes or potentially even low threes, form a higher low before going up, I might look into it. It's not a bad looking chart. Looking at HUD8 is also one of those that's just been like way overextended on the weekly. You just go look at the monthly, it also looks a little bit overextended here too, but this is a bullish chart. The Bollinger Band is starting to expand, the 20-month moving average is going up. On the monthly, you have the bullish look to the wave trend oscillator. Whales are coming back in. There's really not much bearish about that, except for the fact that it's just overextended both on the weekly and monthly above the Bollinger Band. That's really the biggest concern for HUD. And you're also having some declining volume over here too. And you also see it on the weekly. You're about to have a little bit of bearish cross. So I wouldn't enter HUD here just because on the short term, it looks like we're hitting some pretty strong resistance after a pretty exhaustive bull trend on, declining volume. So just something to kind of be a little bit more cautious on. But yeah, based on all the other indicators, it looks like it's a bull trend. Could it come back down to like the top of the Ichimoku cloud around 14.15? Certainly possible. I just don't see it kind of breaking above. If I have it, I would probably have been holding, and if it goes down like 25%, I probably don't care because it's just be higher or low. I might end up buying more. I'm not like that much of a trader. I generally like to trade cycles when it comes to these kind of stocks. But that's kind of what I'm seeing here on HUT. And finally, one stock that's been pretty hot, a lot of retail investors on X, on YouTube have been talking about RIOT, one of the OGs in terms of the miner space. In terms of what RIOT is doing, well, RIOT is just underneath resistance. Got rejected here at 13 bucks as expected, and it's just been range bound so far. The bottom of range could be anywhere from like around 11 bucks, top of range around 13, so it's range bound until proven otherwise. But it reclaimed the blue line, the conversion line road tanking from resistance here back into support. So I can totally see it going back down to like 11. I think the single digit days probably is over, and the wave trend oscillator on the weekly looks good. You have a little bit more Welsh momentum coming in, but it's probably range bound for now, is what I'm seeing. So this is probably still going to be a little bit laggard. On the monthly chart, looks like we are still getting rejected here by the Tenkan Kijun, and we are potentially flattening out on here on the wave trend. You have a little bit more Welsh momentum coming in for July, so maybe there's a little bit more basing behavior here. Maybe we would get some positive momentum here in the upcoming months, but it's still probably going to end up being a little bit of a laggard moving forward. So I talked about all these miners. I think I'm going to keep my video not that long. I'm sorry about if it's too long for you. But anyway, thanks so much for listening. Have a good one. Bye.